So what if I told you there's a type of problem that actually contains its own solution? It sounds a little bit like a brain teaser, right? But it's actually one of the most elegant and sometimes mind-bending ideas in all of computer science. It's called recursion. It's a fundamental concept, and by the time we're done here, you're going to see exactly how it all clicks into place. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to unpack that core idea. What does a problem within a problem even mean? Then, we'll get into the two golden rules that keep everything from going off the rails. We'll watch it work its magic on a classic math problem, see where it's used to solve some seriously complex challenges, and finally, we'll tackle the big question. When is all this elegance actually worth it? So let's get right into it. What is recursion, really? At its heart, it's a concept that can feel pretty abstract, but it's built on an idea that's actually surprisingly simple. Okay, so here's the textbook definition. Recursion is when you solve a problem by finding the solution to smaller instances of the exact same problem. You know, the best way to think about it is with those Russian nesting dolls. To solve the whole puzzle, what do? You just do one simple action over and over. You open the doll. Each time you do, you're left with a slightly smaller but identical puzzle to solve. But that brings up a really obvious question, right? If a function's job is to call itself to handle a smaller piece of the puzzle, what on earth tells it to stop? I mean, what if you had a nesting doll that just went on forever? Well, this is what happens. A runaway train, an infinite loop. This little piece of code here is supposed to print a message, but the very last thing it does is call itself to do the exact same thing again. It is literally a nesting doll with no final smallest doll. It would just keep going and going and going until your whole system runs out of memory and just crashes. This tells us something absolutely critical. We need rules. And luckily for us, there are. There are two simple but incredibly powerful rules that act as our guardrails. They're what turn this dangerous loop into a precise and powerful problem-solving machine. Rule number one is the base case. You can just think of this as the big red stop sign. It's a simple condition that finally tells the function, okay, you're done. Stop calling yourself. And rule number two is convergence. This just means that with every single step, with every new time the function calls itself, you have to be getting closer to hitting that stop sign. If you don't have both, you're just headed for a crash. So let's go back and fix our broken function. It's actually pretty easy. We just add a counter. Now, every time the function calls itself, it passes along a number that's one smaller than before. That's our convergence. And we add a simple check right at the top. Only run if the counter is bigger than 0. That's our base case. And just like that, it's controlled, it's safe, and it works. Now, let's really picture what happens when we tell it to run with the number 5. First, message 5 calls message 4. But here's the key. Message 5 hasn't finished yet. It's now paused, just waiting for message 4 to come back with an answer. And of course, message 4 is paused, waiting for message 3. This creates this whole chain of calls, going deeper and deeper until we finally call message 0 and bam, we hit our base case. So from our start at 5, we actually ended up making 6 separate function calls to get down to 0. This is what's known as the depth of recursion. And it's super important because right now, all 6 of those function calls are still open, sitting in memory, waiting. Hitting the bottom is only half the story. Now for the really cool part. Message 0 hits the stop sign and returns. That unpauses message 1, which can now finally finish what it was doing and return. Then message 2 can finish and message 3, all the way back up the chain until our original call, message 5, finally gets to finish its job. This two-step dance, the dive down and the climb back up, that is the fundamental rhythm of all recursion. Okay, now that we've got the rhythm down, let's put it to work on a classic example you probably ran into in math class at some point, the factorial. What's so great about the factorial is that its mathematical definition is already recursive. It literally says the factorial of a number, let's say n, is just n times the factorial of n minus 1. See, there's our convergence. And it gives us a stop sign. The factorial of 1 is just 1. That's our base case. It's like this problem was custom built for recursion. So let's trace it. If we ask the computer for the factorial of 5, the function says, okay, to get that, I need to calculate 5 times whatever the factorial of 4 is, so it calls itself. And that call says, okay, I need 4 times the factorial of 3. We dive all the way down until we hit the base case. We know the factorial of 1 is just 1. Now the climb back up begins. That 1 gets passed up, multiplied by 2, that result gets passed up, multiplied by 3, and so on, until all those pending calculations get resolved, and we get our final answer, 120. So factorials are a fantastic way to learn. But where does this stuff actually get used? I mean, for the really big, messy problems, where does recursion really shine?
Well, it turns out that some of the most important problems in computer science are naturally recursive. Think about looking for a word in a dictionary. You flip to the middle, right? If your word comes later, you've just created a smaller, identical problem, searching the back half of the dictionary. That's a classic recursive approach called binary search. Recursion is amazing at these divide and conquer problems, and it makes working with complex data structures feel almost effortless.
So, recursion is elegant, it's powerful, and it can make really complicated code much, much easier to understand. But it comes with a price. There's a hidden danger that we absolutely have to talk about. Because even when you follow the two golden rules perfectly, when you have a flawless base case and your convergence is guaranteed, there is a more subtle trap, and it has to do with computer memory. Ah, yes, the dreaded Stack Overflow error. This is the stuff of nightmares for programmers. Remember that dive down phase where each function call was paused and waiting? Well, each one of those waiting calls takes up a little bit of memory on something called the stack. If your recursion goes too deep, if you try to calculate the factorial of a huge number, for instance, you can literally run out of room for all those waiting calls, and the whole program just crashes.
And that brings us to the big trade-off. Recursion often gives you code that's cleaner and easier to read, code that really matches the way you'd think about the problem. But the alternative, just using a regular for loop or a while loop, which we call iteration, is almost always faster, uses less memory, and completely avoids that risk of a stack overflow.
So in the end, the choice isn't really about which one is better. It's about what you're trying to achieve. Are you optimizing for the machine, trying to get the absolute best performance and safety? Or are you optimizing for the next human who has to read your code, trying to make it as clear and intuitive as possible? That is the fundamental question that Recursion always asks us.